Welcome to another episode of Slamfire, guys. Thanks for tuning in. I know I've been off schedule a little bit. We haven't been having some things going down with our schedule and little changes here and there, but I still plan on uploading at least once a week. So just want to give you a little update on that. Remember, guys, be sure to check out slamfiremedia.com for the list of all our episodes with everything that's going down with YouTube and like censorship and everything like that. I don't have like my ear to the grindstone or whatever the expression is. I'm not really like paying attention too much to like censorship and stuff like that. I kind of just upload and like set it and forget it type of thing. But the more and more I look into it and watch different videos, like big mainstream people like Steven Crowder, and recently with Tim Pool got swatted, and all these little things that I see going on, I kind of see a little pattern that, if they can do it to big channels like Steven Crowder has like millions of followers, Joe Rogan is even getting heat, like he's like the biggest one of them all. Like if they can go after those people, imagine what they can do to like a little know nothing channel like this one. So be sure to check out slamfiremedia.com. We have the listings of all our videos there on multiple different sites. So you guys can see our website right here. It's just slamfiremedia.com. We have the links right here on all our videos. So we have YouTube, Rumble, and BitChute. We've been getting a lot of traction on BitChute, so I want to give a big shout out to you guys on BitChute. I look on BitChute I like, again, I kind of just post the videos and I completely forget it. And every time I check BitChute, like it's consistently 20, 30, 40 views on our videos. And again, guys, if you guys, this is the first time you guys watching this episodes, we don't do any sort of like networking, advertising, or anything like that. All the growth that we get, all the views that we get, it's just natural growth from you guys. So I really want to give a big shout out to all you awesome guys on BitChute, just 20, 30, 40 of you guys. Really appreciate you guys giving us support. Just watching it, just seeing that there's views, that you guys are just watching the videos, that is like support enough. I hate saying like, be sure to like and comment, subscribe, hit the bell and all that garbage. Like I don't care about that. I really don't. We talked about this a lot, that we're not doing this for the likes and for the subs and for all that crap. If this turns actually into something, if this actually becomes something that we can turn into like a full-time job or something like that, if this is something that you guys enjoy enough that we're able to get funds from you guys and make this into something that it's self-sustaining, that'd be awesome. But it's not going to be because I'm constantly asking for it. It's going to happen because you guys chose it to happen, right? You guys made that decision, like, hey, we're going to support your work because we like what you're doing. And that's the way I feel like business and free market should work, right? It's not like cancel culture or anything like that. It's, hey, you put a product out there, and if it's a good product, people are going to buy it, and they're going to want to continue to consume your product, right? So we're leaving that up to you guys. But again, like I said, with the censorship and everything that's going on, it's pretty crazy. We have Rumble and BitChute options available for you guys if we don't get tons of views. To be honest, we really don't get any views on YouTube anyway, so it really doesn't matter. I just want to give you guys that option here, that we have a website set up so that you guys can check out our content on different video hosting sites. We also have a Patreon there if you guys are interested, but you guys don't need to worry about that. I just put it there because you guys know that you guys who have been watching this from the beginning know, like, I set things up and I did all this because I'm lazy and I know I won't do it later. So that's the real reason why I did this. But moving on, what are we going to talk about today? I want to get into it really quick. I noticed my last video went on pretty long, and that's okay. Sometimes it happens. I get like I get into like a zone, into a into like a rant or something like that, and I say, oh, I'm only going to do 40 minutes. It's only going to be 50 minutes, but no, it turns into like an hour, over 60 minutes and stuff like that. It happens. But we're up to episode 12. This is lucky episode 13. I wanted to bring back right here. On episode 8, we talked about the importance of freedom and why it's important to really understand that freedom is not something that we should take for granted. We kind of highlighted different things about that. I kind of want to I'm not really going to circle back, but in the context of like the importance of freedom, I kind of want to add to that with our current episode the importance of logic, because I feel that there is a lack of logic in our society right now, where you have so many intellectual people being pumped out of the colleges and universities and everything like that. These people are, quote unquote intelligent, right? They have to be if they were able to go and complete a 2 year degree, 4 year degree, whatever type of degree that they got. They have to have some level of intelligence, right? They're not just, at least I hope not, they're not just giving these people these degrees and stuff like that just because they paid for them, right? They're actually earning them through their intelligence, using their brains and stuff like that. But I feel like we're like the most educated that we've ever been, that society has ever been. Again, guys, this is Slamfire. I'm not throwing any statistics out at you. I'm just shooting from the hip and just going crazy, just talking what I think. And from what I can tell, it seems like a lot of these people are coming out. They're very educated. They're very quote unquote intelligent. I would assume they are, but there's not a lot of logic behind the things that they're saying. And the reason I came up with this is I I work in a place where there are supposed to be people who are intelligent. These people are supposed to be educated, and I don't feel as if they have basic common sense. I don't feel as if they're able to think logically. They're like worse than Slamfire, man. They kind of say things like, oh, there was a recent thing in the news where a guy up north, I think he was from the Dominican Republic, I think, I think he was a resident and everything like that, but he was quote unquote part of the minority group or whatever it is, and he was driving a trailer and he crashed and killed, I want to say like 4 people, and caused a big accident because his brakes gave out. There was an issue with his truck because he was driving like a big semi truck, and it caused a big accident. And he killed so many people, and he received like 104 years or something like that. He received some crazy sentence from the judge and everything like that. And the more and more you look into it, it's like, well, there's reasons behind this. It's not just like the judge pulled a number out of his butt and like, yeah, well, I'm gonna give you multiple life sentences because you did something so atrocious or blah 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 or this and that. It's nothing like that. There was reasoning behind why the judge gave the sentence that he did. But the people that I worked with, they automatically jumped to the conclusion of, oh, they gave him that sentence. They gave him all that because he's brown, because he's from like the Dominican Republic or some garbage like that. And I felt like so. I had like when I get upset about something, when something bothers me, I want to say stuff about it. I want to just say something like, "Yeah, you're stupid for saying that," or I want to say something like, "Yeah, you're wrong." I have like an OCD type of thing in me where if something is not right, if something is not done correctly, I want to say that it's not done right because I like to do things correct. I don't necessarily like follow the instructions like to the T, but I like to use a tool or use a product the way it's intended to use it, right? The way it's intended to be used, like use the right tool for the job type of thing, right? It brings me satisfaction knowing that I'm doing something correctly. So I think that's why that OCD kind of kicks in, because I hear someone say something just completely ridiculous, something completely stupid, and it's like I need to call that out. I need to say something because like you're not using the tool correctly, you know what I mean? Like you're not using the right tool for the job type of thing. So they said all this nonsense and this and that, and all I did was a quick Google search, just a 5 seconds to Google search the accident, what had happened, and halfway into, not even halfway into the article, like right at the beginning of the article, it's like, yeah, the judge said that the way that the law is set up, he has to give this type of sentence, and the charges need to be served consecutively. Like there's no way that they can break it down. It's just the way their law is set up. So it like just took 5 seconds to do a quick Google search, and maybe another 10 seconds to read like the first paragraph, 15 seconds, maybe 20 seconds with loading times and stuff like that. Like 20 seconds, that's it. That's all you needed in order to use logic, and instead of spewing out racist garbage that makes absolutely no sense. And stuff like that's just one example. I've seen other example. I've heard other examples. Other people talk about things. Even my wife, she works with some people that they say the dumbest things, and these people are supposed to be educated because we work in a field. We work in an environment where these people are educated. They went to some sort of higher learning institution where they received some sort of degree, yet they don't have the capability of using logic. It's amazing to me. So this idea, like the importance of logic, I feel is very underrated. I don't feel as if a lot of people are, I don't know, taking it seriously. Like they're kind of just throwing it to the back and thinking like, oh, I need hard facts. I need data. I need I need some special type of instrument or some special type of experiment or something to produce results. I need some sort of data analytics to prove this. Like, no, no, no. What, like, before we get into like that hardcore stuff where you need to go and like take polls and uh, accumulate all this data and do a hypothesis and like do all this crazy scientific stuff, why don't we just try to use a little logic first before we go into that heavy duty stuff, you know? And I feel that, I don't know, maybe it's a product of our times because we're very heavily dependent on technology. So our first instinct is not to think for ourselves. Our first instinct is to, like, let's use our phone. Let's Google it. Let's check this first. Let's do this other. It's like, no, like, why don't we use our brains first? Why don't we think logically to see if this makes sense in the overall aspect of like common sense, right? Like what we know is logical. And again, I'm just throwing theories out there. I think it could be a number of things. We probably won't find an answer for it in this episode, but the fact that there are just so many people consumed by because I do it myself and I know this for a personal fact. What I notice, like, you guys can probably attest to this too, when you wake up in the morning like getting ready to go to work, I have my phone like on my dresser, like right next to me. I just have it charging there on my phone. So when my alarm goes off, I turn off my alarm and I kind of put my phone there, and I kind of lie there in bed for like a few seconds, maybe a little bit longer, like sometimes 5, 10 minutes. My wife has to wake me up sometimes because I just, it takes me a while to get out of bed because I just don't like waking up. I'd rather stay up all night than have to wake up in the morning. I just hate mornings. So my phone is there, and I'll look at my phone. I'll check like my email, or I'll check like my Google feed to see if there's anything on the news that pops up that, the algorithm tells me is important or whatever. And I kind of just, just go through my phone as like my whole process of waking up. And then I finally wake up and I take my phone with me to the restroom. It's like, why do I need my phone in the restroom, right? I'm a dude and I stand up to pee and my hands are usually kind of busy to use the restroom, right? Like most dudes who use the restroom, your hands are busy using the It's not like I can use my phone while I'm, taking a piss. Now, if I'm like sitting down and like dropping a deuce or something, then I can understand my phone. But if I'm just using the restroom like to pee, I don't need my phone, but I still take my phone with me. And then when I'm done using the restroom, I wash my hands or whatever. I get my phone and I go into we have a guest bedroom that I have my clothes in and everything set up for the day, so I don't have to like be searching and checking what I'm gonna wear or whatever. I just throw everything on a guest bedroom bed that I have, and I can just change really quick. I have my phone there. Sometimes I'll put on a video like and just hear it in the background or whatever, but I just have my phone sometimes and I'm not even using it. I'm not even watching it. I'm not listening to it. Nothing. I just have that instinct to take my phone with me everywhere I go. And I'm sure you guys are the same too. And I think about it every now and then, but this weekend, it just became a little bit more prevalent. And then this whole ideal of logic kind of mesh these two things together, where it's like, hey, maybe it's because of this, maybe it's because of that. And that's why I'm thinking that we just have just a complete lack of logic in the sense of things, because it's like, well, if I need to know anything, my phone will tell me, right? If my phone doesn't tell me, then it's not important or it's not valid or something like that, right? I need someone to tell me that it's correct. Because I've seen this with my wife as well. Like, my wife will ask me something, and I'll tell her like, oh, it's because of this, this, and this. And then she say, well, well, she won't say it, but she basically says, I don't believe you. I need someone else to verify this. It's like, I'm your husband. Like, you should believe me. I'm not lying to you or anything like that. But I admit I do that sometimes too. She says, oh, well, I was at work and they said this and they said that. I'm like, did they really say that? Or are you just like, I would need to hear it for myself. And then she basically says the same thing. Why, I wouldn't lie to you and this and that. Why would you think I'm lying? It's like, well, it's not that I think you're lying. It's just that the story just seems so outlandish and so, like, it just doesn't make sense, because I'm using logic, right? I'm trying to think like, is that something someone would say? But Whatever, that's besides the point. But either way, the fact still remains that I believe that we're just so hyper attuned, hyper, I don't know, it's like an addiction. It's just not just, it's like an addiction, but it's like a higher step to an addiction. It's like hyper addiction or something like that. It's not even, I wouldn't say dependency, but it's just like, yeah, it's almost like we cannot function in terms of logic unless we have our phone with us, unless we have some sort of technology or some sort of uh, I don't know, just some sort of validation that comes from an algorithm, that comes from an AI, that comes from something like that. Like a lot of people, they dismiss a lot of things and they don't believe it unless the news or someone with a tie that's all professional that tells them that it's correct. And I think that's something that we should start, not necessarily pull away from, but we need to start relying more on our common sense, because I feel as if we're creating a chasm here between common sense and logic, where common sense is more of the popular belief. It doesn't mean it's correct. It means, like, is this the majority of what people think? And it's not necessarily common sense, but it's like artificial common sense. And this is going to lead me into the next thing that I want to talk about. So the chasm is going is just being getting bigger and bigger and bigger. The chasm between common sense and logic. And the next topic that we'll kind of segue into is like racism. I know this is weird, but you guys have seen this. I've tied these things before, so these kind of tie in together on its own. But it's a simple tie-in in this case. Unlike the last episode that we did, I think it was like uh, leading the horse to water. It was with Kim Potter or something. I don't remember what it was, but I would need to go back. But uh, the idea of racism. So there's a channel that I used to watch a lot. I still watch it every now and then. It pops up. I want to bring this up. I want to give a shout out to it because it's so awesome. Jesse Lee Peterson, Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson. I don't know why he just has Jesse Lee Peterson, because apparently he's a reverend. So I think you should have that on there, Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson. But I don't think you can change your name after you set it up. But either way, whatever. If you guys have not seen Jesse Lee Peterson, I suggest you go check him out. I don't know if he's on Rumble or BitChute, but he he should be like transferring his stuff to Rumble and BitChute, because Jesse Lee Peterson is, I don't like to use the word that often. Like, he's pretty savage. Like, whenever you see those compilation videos and these little uh, highlight videos that they talk about, oh, look, most savage moments, and they're not even like, okay, like, it's whatever. Like, Jesse Lee Peterson is pretty savage. Like, he goes off on people. I don't agree 100% with a lot of things that Jesse Lee Peterson says, but I can appreciate and I can respect the fact that he's so committed to his idea that it if you're like this and like this and like this, then you are this. Like, his most famous thing, I don't think if it's his most famous thing, but one of the things that pops up a lot in like his compilation videos, like savage moments of whatever, some people getting owned or whatever, is he had this lady and on his, I don't know if it's not a podcast. It's almost like a little show that he has, and he brings in an audience. There's like an audience, and it's weird. It's a weird setup, but he's out of Los Angeles, and it's so awesome. I highly recommend you just watch one of his shows, like, because he does have like a podcast. He does a show, like, people call into his show, but he has like a legit, he used to anyway, a legit show where a guest comes in and they sit down from across each other, because usually it's this type of thing where he's like a radio host. But I want to see if I can find one where he has like a guest and they come in and it's like a regular TV show type of thing, but I don't think they air this stuff on TV. It's pretty wild. I want to try to find like, just an example so you guys can kind of see the setup here. He's been on for a while, and I've always seen him with consistently uploading stuff. I just haven't watched any of his things recently, but it's really, really awesome, in the sense that he has no shame. He believes what he believes, and he's going to tell you what he thinks, and it's awesome. Like I can really appreciate that. I don't necessarily agree 100% with the things that he says, but it's nice to hear someone give you their honest, real opinion about something. They're not just telling you something nice to hear, or they're not telling you what you think you want to hear, like a politician type of answer. He's telling you straight up what he believes, and I can really appreciate that. I can't really find these videos anymore. He might have gotten rid of them because they're so I guess controversial. I guess they're so like instigative. Like he kind of grifts, but I don't think he intends to grift. It's really comical at points. I don't know if it's intended to be comical, but it is comical at points. I really can't find it, but basically this lady came on to his show, and she was talking about, she said something about the hypocrisy of calling a woman a slut if she sleeps with a lot of guys. So it's like, okay, if a woman sleeps with a lot of dudes, then she's a slut, right? So what if a guy sleeps with a lot of women? What is he? And then Jesse responds, oh, he's a slut maker. So it's like he's just unapologetic and just crazy with the things that he says. So if you want just like a quick little like idea of what of the crazy things that he says, just do like compilation. Do like a compilation of Jesse Lee Peterson. Like it these are just crazy. Like here they like this Get a Job channel. I've seen this channel before. It has parts like part 1 through 25, and it's just 2 hours of these like it's that video right here where he's talking to this woman, and it's like a sav. I'm not gonna play it because again, guys, I don't want to do like this copyright stuff. I don't want to get stricken down or anything. But I would highly recommend you just watch a compilation. You'll get an idea of Jesse Lee Peterson. So Jesse Lee Peterson, he says some things. I haven't heard his take on it lately, but when I had been watching him when I first heard about him, he doesn't believe that racism exists. Like in the sense where I think he's like literal about it. Like it doesn't exist. It's a fault. It's like a unicorn, right? It's something that people talk about. It's something that people, or not a unicorn. What's a better example? I think it would be like Bigfoot. Like there's people out there who believe Bigfoot. They've seen evidence, and we got all this testimony from these people that they lived out in the woods and they heard all these crazy things, and they say Bigfoot exists, but it's one of those things that's extremely elusive. That's the way he kind of interprets racism. It that it's something that people create because they're looking for attention or they have ulterior motives. That racism doesn't exist at all, and that's something that I'm kind of on the fence about to certain aspects. Where it's like there are people who are racist, right? And that's what racism is, right? When you act or treat someone a certain way based on someone's race, right? And you can't say that race does not exist because it's not objective. You can actually it's not subjective, it is objective, right? You can see someone. There's someone who has darker skin. There's a group of people that live in a certain population, a certain part of the world. They have darker skin, and there's other people who have lighter skin, and there's people that have different characteristics about their cult, not just physical characteristics. They have different parts of their culture that they have different like behavioral characteristics, right? They do things a certain way, and in South America they like to eat rice and beans, and in Asia they like to eat rice, and in other places they like to eat kale or something, whatever. Based on their geographic location, it creates different types of cultures, right? So if we have different types of cultures, it makes that logical sense that of course we're going to have different types of races. Where if we run into someone from Mexico, because we live very close to the Mexican border, and it's easy to run into someone from Mexico or someone who has Mexican heritage, we're going to probably like the same things, right? Because our backgrounds are pretty much the same. Like we could basically go to a taco joint and we'll all be happy and fine, because it's like, yeah, we're used to, all of us are used to eating tacos. We know how to eat tacos. We can eat tacos and beans and rice, and we'll be happy for days, right? And we can get like a little jarritos or whatever, lemonade or whatever we like to drink, whatever they're serving, like a Mexican Coke. That's the tippy top, right? That's like the Cadillac right there, the Mexican Coke. I think it's because of like all the dead bodies in the water, because I've talked about this. I'm going into a tangent right here. So I have a buddy of mine that he gave me like this weird this weird idea that says like, the recipe for Coke is like the same. Like every factory that produces Coca-Cola, the only difference is the water that they use to produce that they use in the formula. That's the only difference, like where the water is located. And it started thinking like, why is the Coke from Mexico so good? And I'm thinking maybe it's because of all the dead bodies in the water that produce that that they're using to make the Coke, that gives it that little tangy flavor or something. I don't know. That's why the Mexican Cokes are so good. But back to the point that all of us are kind of, so we can kind of be lumped up into this same race, right? This Hispanic, Latino type race, whatever you want to call it, Latin America, from Latin America, right? Like wherever you're coming from, if you're coming from Mexico, coming from like Puerto Rico and all that, maybe not Puerto Rico. What's another like Argentina? All these like Latin places. Maybe not Argentina. Argentina's in Spain. What the hell am I talking about? We're all of Latin origin. You guys know what I'm talking about. I don't want to lose my train of thought here because I feel like I'm doing pretty good. I'm not going off the rails too hard. But the idea that there is no racism, I don't think that's true. Yeah, I know. That's what I said. Argentina. Where is Argentina? Argentina's in. Oh, so then I was right then. So then Argentina's in South America. So then okay, my train of thought is correct then. Again, guys, don't look to me as the person of concrete facts here. This is slam fire. We're not meant to be so accurate. We're just kind of shooting from the hip here. So you guys get the idea. So for someone to say that racism doesn't exist, I don't think that's like logically true. And factually, that's not. I don't think that's true. I can appreciate what Jesse Lee is trying to say, that racism is a product of, because like I said, he's a reverend. So racism is a product of like evil type of thing, right? There's evil in the world, obviously, right? There's good and there's bad. There's a god and there's obviously an anti-god, right? There's whatever religion you're in, whatever is your god, there's an anti to that, right? So that's kind of his perspective, in that it's a product of evil. That racism truly doesn't exist. It's just evil. And I can appreciate that, but to say that racism doesn't exist, I think that's just factually incorrect. Just like all this Black Lives Matter, that statement alone, Black Lives Matter, is racist. All this Black History Month and that's why I kind of wanted to talk about this, like this Black History Month, it's like coming up. It's like, are you trying to tell me that the things that we enjoy now, all of these things that we have now, are a product of a race? If it wasn't for someone's race, then we wouldn't be able to enjoy the things that these people of a certain race produced. Like, I don't think that's true at all. And I've had this argument before with my wife. Like, there's a thing that I said, I might have talked about this too in earlier episodes, but there's things that I said that I really respect, like early conquistadors. Like, it doesn't have to be people from Spain, but just conquistadors in general. People that traveled back in exploration times. They just had a rinky dink boat and they got in there and they went to go explore and conquer some land that they never set foot on. They don't know who's going to be there. They don't know what's going to be there. They don't know what the terrain's going to be like. Yet they go and they say like, hey, I'm going to discover something new. I'm going to go and make something my own. And I can really like respect that. That to me, that is just insane. Like the story of Cortez going down and conquering the Native Americans in South America, like to me that's insane, because it's I get it that Cortez and his band of conquistadors, whatever you want to call them, they had the superior advantage to them. They had the technological advantage and they had the intellectual advantage. They were leaps and bounds ahead of the natives by any stretch by any means that you can think of, right? But when they were going there, they didn't know that, right? They didn't know that. They had to have that initial courage, that initial drive to say, I don't care what's over there. I'm going to go over there and I'm going to conquer it. Whether I conquer it or not, I'm going to do it, and if I don't, I don't. I died doing what I enjoyed, or doing what I thought, would put my name in the history books or something like that, right? Maybe they weren't thinking about that, but He was trying to probably live up to. I believe that those type of people were trying to live up to a legacy that they're going to do something, and it's going to be remembered for all time. And to me, that's amazing to me. Not just Cortez, but just anybody who did that. And where I know the reality that they're not the only ones that have done that. Had Cortez not done it, someone else probably would have done it, right? But they didn't. He was the one that did it, right? So that brings me to the point where it's like, well, if there was a famous, I'll just say like a famous Asian guy that created something, had he not created it, I'm sure someone else would have created it. But we give respect and homage to the person that created it because they were the first ones to create it. Anybody could have done it, right? But they were the first ones. That's what's important. It has nothing to do with their race, though, right? It could have been someone else that could have done it. It just so happens that the person was Asian or the person was Mexican or the person was, German or whatever it was, right? Whatever their race is. That whole idea of like Black History Month, it's just so racist to me. Like I think that in itself is racism, is a prime example of how racism exists, that we prop people up just because of a specific race, like Mexican Heritage Month and I can't even think of all these other ones. I hate to think about them because I think they're so stupid. Like, what does it matter if they're Mexican or whatever? Like, they highlight people because of their race. Like, why don't you highlight them because of the things that they actually did, right? Like, the one that I think of that stands up the most is like Cesar Chavez. Like, he's a big prominent person down in where we're at because he worked in the area that we're at. And if you're not familiar with Cesar Chavez, Cesar Chavez was he was a big prominent union type of guy where he fought a lot of not a union type of guy, but workers' rights type of person where he fought a lot for the rights of workers, Mexican American workers down here where we live, and he got them fair wages and representation when it came to them being paid what they're owed for the type of work that they're doing, because like some really dirty stuff went down around here where we live. There's in an close to not close to, but in the area where we live, there's a place called King Ranch. And if you guys aren't familiar with it, it's like a whole industry. Like Ford makes trucks. The Ford company, the automotive company Ford, they make trucks that are dedicated to like King Ranch edition or whatever. They have like editions for their trucks and stuff like that because they own like this big plot of land, and they were big cattle drivers back in the day. And the way that they did that was by, they didn't do it by the fair way, by being fair and honest and stuff like that. They did a lot of scandalous stuff and a lot of evil things in order to get where they at. They didn't make money. They didn't create a legacy by giving things away. They had to take a lot of things away. So with that, you had a lot of workers, a lot of people that came in, and a lot of them weren't being paid their fair share. And then it came a person like Cesar Chavez to come around and fight for these rights and fight for labor rights and things like that for Mexican Americans, right? But I'm thinking, what does it matter that he was a Mexican American? Who cares? He fought for the rights of workers so that people get paid their fair share of wages. Who cares that he was Mexican, or who cares that what his ethnicity was, right? To me, that's not important. It's the act, and that's what kind of inspired me or kind of brought this episode up. Like, why aren't we using logic to determine the great things that people are doing? Why aren't we using logic to highlight the great achievements that we've done, right? It's like, all these people, like these civil rights people, like I feel as if they're just kind of milking the accomplishments of other people, and we're just not seeing that. And I don't think that we should be giving all these people, like that guy, what is that guy? Jesse Jackson. I don't understand how this person is he's like the Joe Biden of whatever group of people that he's in, of like civil rights. I don't even want to call him a civil rights person because he's not a civil rights person. He's just like an evil old thing that is just leeching off of the backs of actual struggle. Like there's people every day that just minding their own business, walking to the grocery store or walking down the street, and they get shot for no reason. And then you have people come up like this and say like, "Oh, he got shot because he's black." Or this happened because they're black. And they just completely deflect, they completely take away they completely take away from the true cause of actual injustice, and it's just despicable. And like I think people should be calling these people out on it more. Like don't let this evil take root, right? Don't give them a pass. Yeah, that's what bothers me the most, is that they kind of give him a pass because he's black. Like, you can't talk about it because you're not black. What do you know about it? And it leads into other things too, right? Like women's rights and stuff like that. Not just women's rights, but more specifically like abortion. Like, you can't talk about abortion if you're a man, right? Like, what is that? What are you talking about? Like, oh, just because you're not part of this group, that doesn't mean you can't talk about something. It's like, no, stupid is stupid. Like, if something is illogical, like, it should be brought out. Doesn't matter by who. Doesn't make sense. The example that's popping in my head, and I hate to bring it up because it's like becoming doing an echo chamber type of thing, where it's like the emperor's clothes thing, right? The emperor wears the emperor isn't wearing any clothes, right? And people are just like, oh yeah, such a great outfit that they have. No one's calling him out the fact that he's naked, right? It's like, no, like someone should be yelling it out. It doesn't matter who it is, if it's a old wise person, a young kid, whoever. Like, if it doesn't make sense, it's not logical, you need to call it out. And I feel as if it's not, it's one of those things where I'm thinking that people are just figuring like, oh, someone else will do it, someone else will say it. The example that I'm thinking of too is when I was going for medical. I was in EMS. I was going to school for EMS, and we had classes, and we were doing, I guess, we would go out on calls and stuff like that. We would ride around with paramedics as part of our clinical trials and stuff like that. And one of the things that they talked about was there's a specific term for it. It's something neglect, like popular neglect, or I don't remember like the actual textbook term for it, but it's the idea that if someone sees an accident down the road, like you're driving down the road and you see an accident like on the shoulder or whatever, like, two cars got into like a collision or whatever, a, a lot of people, they don't make a call. They won't call the police. They won't say anything because they figure in their mind like, oh, we're driving down the highway, we're driving down the road, there's a lot of cars, like someone else will call. So if you have everybody thinking like that, no one calls it out. No one says anything. And I think that's the point that we're reaching to right now, right? Everybody has a cell phone. Everybody has access to this technology. Everyone has the ability to say something because we have access to this crazy social media stuff where you can go onto Twitter, you can go onto Reddit, you can go onto, whatever Instagram, whatever social media platform that you use. You can go on there and you can say, hey, you can live stream, look at what's happening, and that's kind of like the idea that we have, is that, oh, someone else will talk about it. But conversely, you have that same idea. Well, if no one is talking about it, then it must not be important. It must not be something that is worth looking into or worth saying, because no one told me that it's ridiculous. No one told me that I should be worried about this or worried about that. So I can just ignore it and just wait for someone to tell me what I should think, because we have this dependency, right? This subconscious dependency on technology, and the people with these suit and ties, that these people that quote unquote look official, that they have all the answers, they know everything because look, they're on TV, right? They have to be important. They wouldn't just put these random people on TV. Look at Joe Biden. Come on now. Like, you think, oh, he has to know something, right? He's the president of the United States. Like, really? This guy, like, he can barely talk. How can someone look at this logically and say this person is qualified for this job? No, you can't. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable how this chasm between common sense and logic has been allowed to just spiral out of control. It's so crazy, and I think the answer to that is that we let it because it's convenient for us, right? I've been talking to my wife, and we had been talking about it for a while. We don't know like what we are in the sense of like politics. Like, are we Republican? We're definitely not leftists. Are we Republican? Are we conservative? Are we independent? Are we moderate? Like all these words, it's like sometimes I don't even really know what they mean anymore because they're constantly changing. We were to the point where we were thinking like, oh, we're libertarian because we kind of want to be left alone. And I think that's as accurate as we can be with the definitions, with the way that we understand the definitions. And I think that a lot of people are like that as well, right? Whether you're libertarian or not, I'm not saying you're libertarian, but the idea is that I think a lot of us want to be left alone and we kind of want to just do our own thing. Like, like that's the American dream, right? People come to America because they want to be their own boss. Have you guys ever had a job where you have a manager or a boss or just a higher ups person that makes you realize like I want to be my own boss because of this dude, because of this chick. Like, man, this person sucks so much that I don't want anybody to be my boss. I want to be my own boss. I don't want anybody to tell me what to do, when to do it, or how to do it. I want to be the one that makes the decisions because of this asshole right here, right? Because they're the ones telling me that I should be doing this, like this, when I know it should be done like this, like this, like this. Like, what the hell do they know? I'm the one doing the job. And that's like the American dream, right? To be your own boss, to do your own thing, make your own money, how you feel you should make it. And I feel as if we're giving a lot of that stuff up because it's very hard. It's very hard to take that risk. Just like the conquistadors back in the day, like to take that risk, to take that leap of faith and say whatever happens happens, I'm going to do it because I believe in it and I have faith in my success. I don't think people have that faith anymore. People are just so used to having that dependency. And it's not just one thing. I think that's just one contributing factor. I think it's just natural, just like James Cameron in Terminator 2 said it best, or the Terminator said it best, Arnold said it best, that the human race is not meant to live forever. Like it's within our nature to destroy ourselves. That's just how our world was built. Maybe there's a parallel universe, a different type of world where things that are logical, things that make sense that are propped up. Those are the things that are highlighted. Those are the things that people receive achievements for. But in our universe, it's just it's crazy in the sense that things that are logical, things that make sense to us on an individual level, just don't make sense when it comes to a large group of people. You know, like hundreds, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people. You get 80 million votes for Joe Biden, which I'm just going to say that it happened because apparently it did happen. And you get people calling January 6th an insurrection that was worse than Pearl Harbor. What? How is people not, how are more, don't get me wrong, there are people calling it out, there are people saying that it's ridiculous, that what, I don't even want to say her name, that what that lady said was just ridiculous. And I feel that more people should be calling it out. It's just something that just makes absolutely no sense. But yet she's still the vice president of one of the I'm gonna say it's the best country in the world. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else other than the United States. And I feel that's a statement that a lot of people wouldn't agree with because they live in the United States. And to me, that just makes no sense whatsoever. So again, guys, this time I'm going to end it early. I don't want this to go past an hour, and I'm sure you guys don't want it to go past an hour. Again, I really appreciate you guys, especially you awesome guys on BitChute, watching our videos. We really appreciate you guys giving us the time, giving us time. I hope these conversations, these little episodes, kind of get your mind thinking, because that's the purpose. If you guys don't remember uh, from the first video, we kind of want to start these little we wanted to start this project. Me and the Slanted Scholar. I actually have a co-host, which he's actually very busy with work, so it's kind of hard for him to come. I'm kind of holding down the fort as best I can. He'll be on hopefully soon, and we can get some really good, crazy conversations. But him and I, we started this project because we just wanted to talk about stuff. We wanted to get things out there, and we wanted to get people's minds thinking, because I think it comes back to this: the importance of logic. I kind of want to. I don't like to tell people what to do, but I'm gonna kind of go against that and be like, I really implore you to use your head first before you go to an outside source, before you go to another source. Like, even if you're not good at it, because there's things that I'm wrong. Like, listen to this show. Listen to this show. There's a lot of things that I'm wrong about, but don't be afraid to be wrong. You're gonna be wrong, and that's what I want to encourage you to do. Kind of get used to being wrong. Say what you think, but actually say what you think. Don't say something that someone else told you to say. Say something because it came from your brain. I guarantee you it's going to come out stupid, because it happens to me all the time. It happened to me in the past 40 minutes. It happened to me several times. You guys can check the footage or get the receipts. There's receipts. But don't be afraid. That's how you're going to learn. And I feel that's a message that isn't pumped out as much. I feel like there's a lot of people that they focus on the bad more than they do the good. There's a prime example. One last example, because I know I can go on and on and on. One last example is a famous mathematician or whatever that I saw this on like a meme page or something, but it makes sense. A famous mathematician did 10 problems. Did 9 out of these 10 problems were like really difficult math problems, right? Where you had like all these, you had to use algebra, you had to use geometry, you had to use calculus, all this crazy stuff. And then one of the problems was a simple arithmetic problem, like 9 plus 12 or something like that, right? And that answer was the one that was wrong. When they showed that paper to like his colleagues, when that mathematician showed the paper to his colleague, like, look, I completed these problems. Guess what they focused on? The one problem that was incorrect. Like, how could you miss this? It's 9 plus 12. You were able to solve all these other problems, but you missed 9 plus 12? It's like, why are you criticizing me for one problem that I got wrong? Instead of you focusing on 90% of the answers that I got correct, what did you focus on? What did you choose to focus on? The things that were wrong. And that's something that we naturally do, right? Because we kind of want to put a face. We kind of want to hide in the crowd and not be the one subject of ridicule. We want to throw that ridicule onto someone else so that we don't get any attention. Like, cut that crap out. Like, just like, don't think about that. Think about progressing in your own mind, like progressing yourself, expanding your web, right? What's that Robinson guy, that famous guy, expanding your mental web. Don't focus on the negative, because there is going to be negative no matter what. You can say the most clearly logical, absolute, makes 100% absolute sense. There's always going to be someone that's going to contradict it or say that it's wrong. That's going to happen. So at least get something out of it, in the sense that you're working towards becoming as logical and less dependent on something else to come up with your own facts. Not with your own facts, to come up with your own ideas, your own original opinions. And I guarantee you'll be that much more better. At least to yourself. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot more people are going to hate you. This should come with a disclaimer. You might lose friends. Family members might come to shun you. That is a product. That is something that does happen. All right. But again, guys, that was this episode. I kind of wanted to talk about that. The importance of logic and racism, tying that all together. Everything like that. Again, guys, we really appreciate you guys checking us out. This has been Slamfire. Make sure you go to slamfire.com. We have all our episode lists there, as well as links to other video hosting channels. So if we get banned somewhere, at least we have a different place that you can go to and consume. Hopefully you like the product. But again, guys, we really appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this. This has been Slamfire. Take it easy.